today's gospel wasn't that long, but I think it did have a lot to say to us. It told us, for starters, what the Lord's favorite activity on his day off was, and I can sympathize with that, to take a boat and go to a deserted place. But the gospel, of course, tells us quite a few more important things. And although Jesus and the disciples were trying to get away from being with people and with crowds throughout today's gospel, I think it actually, the gospel has a lot more to say to us about being together than it does about being apart, and the importance of being together. The people of Jesus' day understood the need for this time with the Lord, time spent in his physical presence. Matthew's gospel, in fact, tells us a detail that this story in Mark leaves out, which is that the people had been without food, some of them even for 3 days, as they followed the Lord into the desert. So they even left behind the needs of the body as they pursued the Lord, even the most basic needs and wants of our person, these people left behind in order to spend time with the Lord. And of course, their presence with the Lord was making him do that as well. The gospel tells us that he and the disciples, even because of the constant press of people, had even no time to eat. Which I think is interesting food for thought. Consider the Lord who made heaven and earth, the timeless, eternal God, in human form, without time. The God who feeds all things from his endless bounty, without the ability to eat. And the God who sustains the world by his constant love and care, without which we'd all fall instantly into nothingness, needing a day off. These are quite the humiliations for the omnipotent God, aren't they? And yet the Lord accepted them all, accepted all these human weaknesses, every weakness that we bear except for sin, so that he could be like us in all things, so that like his tired creatures, he too could become tired. Like his creatures worn out with cares, he too could be worn out with care. And like his hungry creatures, hungry with the hunger of the body, yes, but hungry even more with the hunger of the heart for love, he too could become hungry. He too could thirst, such that when he died on the cross, before he expired, he cried out, "I thirst," thirsting for the love which he could not find among the hard hearts of his people. All of that was worth it for the Lord, and it was worth it because the Lord knows us. In fact, he knows us better than we know ourselves, and he knows how important it is for us to be in his presence physically. After all, he made our bodies, and he made us, and he knows how important we are, and our bodies are, in fact. And he knows how important physical presence with one another, and presence with him is. I think for a time during the late pandemic, we strove to keep up presence without physical presence. We live streamed the Mass, we met each other via Zoom, and we talked about being alone together, which never made all that much sense to me. But nevertheless, we did our best. And looking back on it, I think our best, even then, wasn't good enough. There's no replacement, in fact, for being with one another in the flesh, for being with the Lord here at Mass physically. Because here at Mass, when we come to the altar, when we stand here before the sacrifice being offered, we are brought sacramentally to the foot of the cross. We join Mary and the Lord's beloved disciple as they stood before the foot of the cross. And through sacramental signs, we see reenacted the sacrifice which won our redemption. There's no live stream option for that. The Lord is here and here alone, and calls us to join him here at his altar, where in a unique way we can see the cross reenacted. We can come before the foot of the cross and receive the Lord's body and blood from his very heart. And that is a great, great gift, which I wouldn't miss for the world. Now, of course, there were two groups of people at the foot of the cross. There were the very small group of the Lord's followers, the Blessed Virgin Mary, John, the evangelist, the Lord's beloved disciple, and Mary Magdalene, each of them with deep love for the Lord in their heart, and Mary with deep contrition in her heart. But then there was that other group as well, quite a few of them, the Roman soldiers who pierced the Lord's heart, the high priests who mocked and rejected him. And when we come here to Mass, we make a decision first which group we join, whether we join the group of the Lord's lovers and followers, his disciples, or we join the mocking crowd. And we make that decision by the sacrament of confession, which the Lord offers us. So it's important for us, of course, to be here at Holy Mass, but it's more important even for us to be here in the state of grace, to be here in union with the Lord and union with his heart, and not in sin. Being here in sin or receiving communion in sin is somewhat like joining the crowd of the Lord's scoffers and rejectors. So I think the gospel, yes, today has a lot to tell us. It tells us how important presence at Holy Mass is. At Holy Mass, we come before the foot of the cross. The Lord accepted every humiliation and every suffering in order to be with us physically, in order to be like us, in our physical bodily state. And so he invites us to accept that with generosity, to come here and to worship and adore him at the foot of his cross, where we see the sacrifice of our redemption take place each and every Sunday at each and every Mass.